There was once a young shepherd boy named David, the youngest of 8 sons in the family of Jesse, from the town of Bethlehem. David spent his days watching over his father's sheep on the quiet hills, armed only with his sling, his staff, and songs that he played on his harp. He loved God deeply, and as he watched the sheep graze under the sky, he often spoke to God as to a close friend. No one imagined that this simple shepherd boy would soon face a giant and change the course of Israel's history. At that time, Israel was at war with the Philistines, their longtime enemies. The two armies had gathered on opposite hills, with a valley between them. Each morning and evening, a giant named Goliath came out from the Philistine camp. He was enormous, over 9 feet tall, with heavy bronze armor, a massive spear, and a booming voice that echoed through the valley. He taunted the Israelites every day. "Choose a man to fight me," he shouted. "If he wins, we will serve you. But if I win, you will serve us." The Israelites trembled with fear. Even King Saul, their tall and mighty leader, dared not face Goliath. For 40 days, Goliath came out to challenge them, and no one stepped forward. Meanwhile, David was still at home tending his sheep. One day, his father Jesse said, "Take this bread and grain to your brothers on the battlefield. See how they are doing." David obeyed and set out early in the morning, leaving his flock in the care of another shepherd. When he reached the camp, he found the soldiers lining up for battle, shields clanging, horns blowing. Just then, Goliath stepped forward again, his voice thundering across the valley. David heard his words and saw how the Israelites shrank back in fear. "Who is this Philistine," David said quietly, "that he dares to mock the armies of the living God?" The soldiers nearby looked at him in surprise. "Do you see this man? The king has promised great reward to whoever kills him, even his daughter's hand in marriage." But to them Goliath looked invincible. David's oldest brother, Eliab, overheard and scolded him. "Why have you come here? Go back to your sheep." But David replied, "What have I done now? I only asked a question." And the courage in his voice spread through the camp until word reached King Saul. Saul sent for the boy. David bowed respectfully, but his eyes were steady. "Don't let anyone lose heart because of this Philistine," he said. "I will go and fight him." Saul looked at him in disbelief. "You are only a boy, and he has been a warrior since his youth." But David answered, "I have been keeping my father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came to take one, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep. The same God who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the bear will deliver me from this Philistine." Saul saw the fire in the young man's eyes and slowly nodded. "Go," he said at last, "and may the Lord be with you." Saul offered David his royal armor, a bronze helmet, a heavy coat, a sword. David tried them on but could barely move. He smiled and shook his head. "I can't go in these, I'm not used to them." He took them off and picked up instead his shepherd's staff, his sling, and 5 smooth stones from a nearby stream. Then, with faith as his only armor, he walked down into the valley to meet Goliath. "Am I a dog, that you come at me with sticks?" he roared. He cursed David by his gods and thundered, "Come here, and I'll feed your flesh to the birds." David stood firm, his voice clear and unwavering. "You come against me with sword, spear, and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, whom you have defied. Today the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and the whole world will know there is a God in Israel." The giant sneered and advanced, his armor gleaming in the sunlight. David reached into his pouch, pulled out a stone, placed it in his sling, and began to swing it with all his might. Whir, whir, whir. The stone flew through the air, swift, silent, precise. It struck Goliath right on the forehead. The giant staggered, his eyes wide with shock, and fell face down to the ground with a thunderous crash. The battlefield fell silent. David ran forward, took Goliath's own sword, and ended the fight. When the Philistines saw that their champion was dead, they turned and fled in panic. The men of Israel shouted in victory and chased them far into their land. David stood over the fallen giant, breathing hard, the sling still in his hand. He lifted his eyes to heaven and whispered a prayer of thanks. After the battle, King Saul brought David before him. "Whose son are you, young man?" he asked. David replied simply, "I am the son of your servant Jesse, of Bethlehem." From that day forward, David's life changed forever. He became a hero in Israel, beloved by the people, and chosen by God for even greater things. But David never forgot that it was not his strength or his skill that brought victory. It was his faith. And so the story of David and Goliath has lived on for generations, a story not just of courage, but of trust. Because giants still come to us today, fears, doubts, challenges that seem too big to face. But like David, we can remember, it's not the size of the warrior that wins the battle. It's the size of his faith. When you stand with God, no giant is too tall,